Hey, good afternoon and welcome to the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. The lovely Terry is here. She's got her headphones on, very professional, looking the bit. I mean, you really are. I'm impressed.
I've got to do it. I've got to make up for all the things that not go right. So this is just really giving me the edge, no pun intended.
Boom, boom. You look like a legit podcaster.
Thank
you, English. I'll learn some of that. I'll pop my teeth back in. Hang on. Podcaster.
Gosh.
There we go. No, the teeth are real.
Gosh. I do really good visuals, so I just imagined you putting your teeth back in your mouth just then.
What a great image that is. No worries at all. Well, just clicking the buttons because we're going all of these different feeds all over the place, just chasing these ones up. Now, great to have you here, Terry. Today's, what's going on here? We'll just end this bit. What's going on? Sorry about that. My apologies. We've got all these comments and things coming through, and
great.
Yeah, which is always a good start.
Bring your comments.
There we go. Lovely. Some
yeah.
banners and lots of questions as well. So,
Awesome.
All right, let's just see what we're doing here. I just want to check. Okay, we've got a little bit of a drama going on, but we'll sort that out as we go.
But we have to have a drama. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. So are they all hit on the right spot up top?
I don't know, to be absolutely honest with you,
because they should be.
I can't tell. Can
you see us, guys? If you can see us,
this is the main thing. Send us a message,
hearts, and a message.
Otherwise, we are talking to ourselves here.
Yeah, we're talking to the hand.
I'm looking at the top here. There's lots of little ticks and things like that. Ticks are always a good
they were
definitely
a good
sign. There we go. Tick, it's away. Fantastic.
Ticky
all right.
Tickety,
great to see. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
We now have confirmation. Now, Terry, what are we going to talk about today on the Genius Zone? What's the drama? What is the NLP drama of today?
Okay. Why do people's goals not work?
Interesting.
The very thing that people want, they seem to feel that it's so far away and out of reach for them. It's and have you noticed that as well a bit? Like, have you ever, felt like you really, really, really want something and you do all the right things, you set the goals, you put everything in place.
Yep.
But somehow or other, the more you try, the more that you're pushing it away.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, cool. I mean, my answer to that is, like, sometimes I think what we do is we build these goals up so big in our minds that we kind of make it almost unattainable. Whereas if we just take small bites at it, then we can get closer to it. I don't know. Yeah,
look, I don't know. I think big, audacious goals are not such a bad thing, but there are a few missing links.
Yeah. Okay. That's 1,000%
that I believe. That I believe. But we've got some questions, and one of them, the last question, I really believe that's going to answer that question in full. Why do we not get our goals? And it's like the very thing that we push for, the very thing that we it's like almost like a life force, and then it just doesn't. It seems to be like water on a duck's back. It's like it's not there, and then you hear all this. Well, the law of success is just a whole load of rubbish.
Well, the law of success is pretty much, you know what? Keep failing, keep getting up, and every single time you fail, you're closer to success, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're finding out the ways that you don't get there. Okay, that's
absolutely. But it is science. If you look at it, it is science and spirituality.
Okay.
So there's a bit of both there, but we'll talk about the missing links. So I'm really keen to share some of the insights that I have discovered through my own personal experience by default. Things catch up on you, like things you think that you may have put a goal. Here I go telling the story already. You think that you put a goal out there 2 years ago, and I often talk about this, but you forget about it, and then the bloody thing comes up and whacks you on the back of the head. Oh, excuse me, I just swore, but you know what I mean? It
but subconsciously, are you working it on the quiet and you don't even realise you're doing it?
Yeah, see, okay, I'm going to hit that right there because that's a good point.
Okay.
The universe, God, the outside timeless space, which is, because obviously all those things are outside of time.
Yep.
Because time is man constructed. It is. It's a construct of man.
Yeah,
And
but it happens. We just put some dots on it. Really.
well, if it wasn't a constructive man, Aaron,
Yep.
then how come it's now 3 a.m. in the morning in the US
Yep.
and 9 a.m. Oh, that's not actually 100% true, somewhere in Europe.
Yep.
And do you know what I mean? So there's
No, I agree with you on that
times.
front. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just being like on the bigger scale of the fact of, we have we have tides, we have the movement of the stars and the moon and the planets and the whole box and dice.
Yes.
So it exists, but yes, we are the ones who put the parameters on it.
Exactly. I mean, you only have to look up to the sky, right?
Mhm.
And there it is, the moon, the stars.
Yep.
So, that is seeing and believing.
It's there, right?
But because it's outside of time, the universe, whatever you are praying to, whatever you are visualizing for, doesn't know time. So you didn't mention you wanted that like this century.
Oh, that was a good point. When you put it out to the universe, yeah, okay. So the universe isn't going, hey, not on my watch,
exactly.
Right? Okay.
It doesn't know.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
No, it's one of the things. It's one of the things.
Hello to the lovely Leanne. There we go. Apparently she agrees with you. She's felt like that in the past.
Lady.
Pushing and getting nowhere.
Yeah.
We're not talking about childbirth here.
Yes.
Okay, come on.
No, but it's true, it's like you're pushing, and the more you push, and I've talked about this a lot on the show too, it's like you're forcing it, and then it's kind of pushing back.
Okay.
But then in that whole surrender and letting go, that's got a lot to do with it. But there are also some other little elements that I think we're missing. Okay. And again, I'll share that as we sort of go on through the questions.
Okay, well, let's jump into the questions because you've been very techie today and you've popped them up here for us. So let's have a look. We can bring them up on the screen. I actually love this idea because obviously, people who are watching this in the future, they'll be able to look at that and sort of compare it to their own lives and their own thoughts. So let's
Can I just say something on that note?
Sure.
Because this is like Genius Zone, NLP and all of that stuff.
Yep.
Because everything, including manifestation of goals, is around the sensories. So it's always around seeing, hearing, feeling, olfactory, fragrance and taste, as well, gustatory. So being that it's based on all of those senses coming to life, everyone's different. So, for example, I'm thinking myself, I mean, this is not a fact, but I'm thinking it, that you're very audio, but I feel like you're like this.
Yep.
You're actually, Ian's the same. So being a chiropractor, it's here, it's ears, what you hear, body, ears, feelings.
Okay.
So it's, so someone like you will learn a lot from hearing.
100%. No doubt about it.
And that is not necessarily the same, though, for the next person. So for the next person, it may be that, like me, I have to see it and then experience. So I have to be hands-on and actually be doing it and learning it, and then at the same time seeing it. So that's high visual. Right. So because we all learn in different ways, having this banner, like, it's so good in terms of being able to train and teach. And,
well, you're visualizing it. Exactly. You're seeing it right there. And I think it's a really good point. I think about, I've often been teased in life by bookworms, right? They go, why don't you read books? Right? I've read, I don't know, like that many, 5 maybe in my entire life.
5 pages?
5 pages, feels like that. I have not read a whole lot of novels, right?
Yeah.
For several reasons. I like facts, right?
Yes,
so therefore I want my information to be tight and concise and factual. So novels have never really, tickled my fancy.
They would not,
No.
I'm with you on that, big time.
But to the audio side, you've got a great point, because I would happily listen to a podcast, an audio book or anything like that. I hear the content.
Yeah.
I just don't really want to go through.
But you could also get irritated by people's voices if they annoy you.
Totally.
So that's a big one too. But so I guess that right then. So you believe that you are. See, when we do training and do workshopy stuff, we actually get people to, as part of the element, because you know who would make for the best people to learn this stuff? Teachers.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you why. Because how many kids in the classroom just fall to the back of the classroom? They don't do so well. Some of them, I mean, there's battlers, and then there's people that battle from the teacher.
No doubt about
that. So if the teacher understands, and I've actually worked with a lot of teachers on this.
Okay.
So it's understanding that just because she might be a highly visual person, and then kinesthetic, doesn't mean to say that every student in that class is going to be the same. So she's going to have to, if she really wants to bring her classroom numbers, you know, especially as they get into high school, up, she's got to be able to speak to them. If she wants them all to do the best that they can, she can put up on the board for the high visual students.
Sure.
So they can see it a bit like these banners here. And for the others, it can be, you know, actually what they're listening to. So get them to listen to something and teach them and even really go around that. And then you get other ones, especially little boys. I feel like this is especially in kindy.
Sure.
But they like to sit down and they start learning through their hands and working with blocks and, you know, stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's good to be able to, from a teacher's perspective, and even when you're talking to people and everyone else, how good is it to be able to speak their language?
It comes to my mind, that's brilliant advice, quite frankly. It comes to my mind about knowing someone's currency, right? And that's not just about punishing kids for bad behaviour, right? Knowing someone's currency, knowing what, you know, what floats their boat, okay? So if they are a visual person, that's great. If they're a person who's, you know, like we often joke about it, all sorts of things, but, you know, hey, if anybody can relate anything to cars, I'm there, I'm listening, I'm in, right? Okay? Now, if you started talking about something, I don't know, I can't think of it. Flowers.
Your eyes would glaze over.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm not saying flowers aren't cool, but they're just not my
But it's
call.
not your thing.
No.
It's not going to excite you.
No.
It's not going to lift the dopamine.
Spot on. So whatever it happens to be, you find something that works for you. I bought a computer once. I bought my first ever laptop I bought many, many years ago. And the guy said to me, he was smart. Because I said, mate, look, I know very little about computers. I know that's the dumbest thing you can say to a salesman, right, who's about to sell you a computer. But I said, look, you know, I don't know a lot about them, but I need to do these particular things. He said, well, first, you've told me what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because what are you into, mate? Look, I'll explain it in those terms, right?
Very clever.
Very clever. And I said, okay, I need to do these things. And what am I into? Okay, I'm a car man. So he goes, right, I'll explain it in car terms.
Yeah, he's
so he
smart.
goes, so he goes, the RAM represents this, da. You need this hard drive for this. Explained it all. I was like, done.
Exactly.
We designed what I needed right there on the spot because now I knew in my language what it was all about. Okay. And I felt so much more confident in it. Great salesman.
He's
Didn't
speaking
oversell
your
me.
language.
He was really clever.
And he's probably done some sort of NLP. It may not have been called neuro-linguistic programming, but it comes from that same whole CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. By the way, NLP was really big on that. And, you know, being able to speak people's language by getting to know what they're like, what really, as you say, what flicks their switch. But next week, I know that I'm here this week and I need to stay in the present. But next
look
week,
to the future. Go on.
I would like to kind of just put a carrot out there to our listeners and viewers, whether you're audio or visual, on how can you tell whether a person is visual, audible, or kinesthetic. And there is a specific technique, and it's spot on. Detectives use it in their questioning. So next week, how about that?
Sounds good. My advice whenever dealing with a detective is the answer is I don't answer questions. There you go. Beautiful. Let's jump into these questions though. For those who, actually I won't even go there. Where are we? I'm being a bit naughty here. All right, let's have a look at this question. This is from Tammy. Tammy is in Queensland, beautiful Queensland. Oh, what is it? Beautiful one day, perfect the next. Now, unfortunately, Tammy, I'm struggling with chronic fatigue and looking for any tips. I am seeing a chiropractor. Okay, it's a big struggle, chronic fatigue. You hear a lot of people have got it and sort of suffering through.
Yeah, and everything, actually my husband is a chiropractor. And everything comes from the dis-ease of the mind. So, people out there may know my husband is actually going through a very big illness at the moment, but it's really playing a very significant part in his dharma, his sole purpose. And I think that's what's giving me a lot of comfort. But believe it or not, Tammy, the same with you. So when you are looking at, chronic fatigue especially, it's definitely, you know, a lot of disappointments that people generally have had in their lives, and unresolved disappointments that they've been carried. And, you know, everybody carries them differently, but one thing for sure, our body is the library, so it never forgets. So even if we forget, you know, the body never forgets, and the body doesn't lie either. So
my body is very angry. Trust me. What have you done?
Okay, is that why you run around at the last minute when we're setting up? Okay, getting rid of some energy. So, you know, what I would dare say to you is, you know, firstly, what if it was a big part of your spiritual growth? What if this was to give you the ability to grow and take that next step, and, you know, also be involved in perhaps something that you wanted at a subconscious level? But this is where, be careful what you wish for.
Okay.
And I have to say, that's where my husband is. I can see it, like it stands out.
Gotcha.
Like, be careful what you wish for, because like we were talking before the show, the universe doesn't know time. It doesn't get a lot of stuff. So you've got to be really specific. So firstly, if it was spiritual growth, Tammy, you know, how can you grow through this? What can you be actually getting out of it? And secondly, what unresolved issues are you carrying in your body? Because when you can address it, don't run away from it. In fact, embrace it. And thirdly, be an advocate for your pain.
That's a big one. So many people don't. They retreat back into it,
don't
they?
So that's a weird one, actually. Like, it's like, what you talking about, Terry? But being an advocate for the pain means that you are not grinding against the whole thing, like people that can't get their goals, they're grinding, right? So they're hustling, and they're, you know, hustling is good, but grinding and hustling, forcing it does not work. But on the other hand, if you're in that, you know, space of going, okay, releasing and letting go, and understanding that there is a spiritual growth, there is a purpose for you, and advocate for it. Say, for example, write it down on a piece of paper, or say it out loud. You know, what is it that I'm truly gaining out of this? Like, what am I had a friend, honestly, from school, and I swear she never left her couch, and she always had backaches, and she had all these things, but she was like a captain of a ship. She would be ordering her kids around. She never lifted a finger. Whoa. Now, I reckon she was relying on that. Now, she may not have consciously gone, oh, give me a really sore back so I can put my feet up for the rest of my life and just get my kids to run around and my husband and da-da-da-da. However, there is an unconscious thing somewhere deep, deep, deep inside. So you've got to look at what could be the good possibility of having chronic fatigue. Ask yourself some really great questions. Write it down. You know, what could be good? Advocate for it and say, well, hey, maybe don't expect the answer either, because if you expect the answer up front, it's not going to come.
You've already written it, right?
Yeah. So once you ask the question, the secret is, do not say to yourself, I do not know. So, for example, what is the higher purpose of this ailment that I've got? Don't come back with, I don't know, because that's a protection of the wall going up. Yeah. Whereas if you have a trust where you say, okay, what can be, you know, the greater purpose of what's going on for me in my life, and it doesn't have to be just physical ailments, it can be anything. Okay. Don't force it, let it come. And what you'll find is that it may not be on the spot, it may not even be that night. It may be in a week, a couple of days, having a drink with a friend, and then suddenly you're talking, and then next thing you know, there's a bit of synchronicity going on.
Comes to you, right?
And then it's like bam, 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 boom. Okay. Give it a go.
Very much give it a go. Well, a couple of points have come through there in the meantime as well. I'll pop this on the screen. I believe this is Taz. Now, Taz is She consults with hubby. She actually mentioned before, never tell someone in IT that you know nothing about computers. You are bang on, 100%. That was clearly a silly mistake.
Thank you for
and
that.
I'm normally a bit sharper than that, but there you go. Now, the good news is now I understand enough about it. I know what kind of specs I need. So hanging around these nerds has been very, very good for me, right?
Do you think they take advantage as well? Like,
Of course
because
they
you
do.
don't know nothing?
Go to a mechanic, okay? If you don't know anything about cars, I've taken girlfriends of mine to mechanics, or like female friends, not girlfriends as such. And the mechanic just tells them stories, like, come on, right? And I'll go.
Blowing smoke?
Yep, and I just go and fix it in 10 minutes flat, and away you go. Anyway, that's that.
Ignorance is not bliss.
No, not
Aaron.
always, absolutely.
No.
But a further comment to just sort of jump back before to Tammy, and we're sort of on a couple of pages here, so please, if you could just forgive me on that one. So I'm going to say something strange. I'm going to get completely away from the spiritual side here, and let's talk about tin tags. I have several friends of mine over time, and colleagues as well, more to the point, who from Queensland got Ross River virus, Ross River, whatever it's called.
Yeah, Ross River disease, yeah.
Which has led them to having chronic fatigue, right?
Yes.
Now, I don't know if that's just coincidence or whatever, but maybe it's something it might be worth looking at.
I know this. I know this. My brother-in-law had it.
Oh, okay.
And he suffered it. Now, they say, Ian used to say, go and hit an electric fence, because there is, I don't know whether this is true, by the way, but they say that the electrical forces in that is shocking and actually has some kind of a, good outcome. Yes, this is what I've heard. Now, whether it's not a science fact or anything like that, so please don't hear me say that.
Check the instructions on your electric fence.
Yeah, please, but it has. But I will say one thing from where I do know my thing, and that is from an NLP. If you shock someone, out of, they might be, because I've had umpteen people that'll come in and they'll be so depressed and their shoulders will be down and they'll be like, oh, life's not worth living and da-da-da-da. And then I'll turn around and say something like, well, hey, I've got a gun out in the shed. Do you want me to go grab it? And then it's like, what? Did she just say that? But it's shock. It's shock treatment. Also, Anthony Robbins used it. I watched him do it and it was so smart. He was dealing with a guy that had broken up with his wife, and he was really, really upset. Okay. And but he was down in the dumps. He was suicidal, all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And then he started talking about insurance, and all this stuff started coming up. And then Anthony turns around and says, well, I'm going to go. Because what he'd said, just to put it into context, is I'm better off dead, because if I die, then my wife's just going to get the insurance, right?
Yep.
And I guess you do hear about those things, and then in the horror movies.
No, they're not horror stories. I've been there. I have literally myself thought I am better off dead because I want my children to have the insurance money.
Oh, gosh.
Right? No, I absolutely been there.
Yeah.
And many men feel that way, and women as well.
But guess what Anthony did?
What's that?
He said, I'm going to go and ring the authorities right now and tell them what you just said. He said, you can't do that. He said, well, I'm going to. This is a confidentiality. I've bought this seminar. I've come here today and I'm telling you something. And he suddenly got some spunk about him.
It fired him up.
It fired him up. Cool. So shock treatment, it does work.
Well, look.
Don't try the electric
I see these great messages again from Taz. She fixes cars too. You are the triple threat, Taz. Be careful, right? Jeez. Look, I tell you right now, a hubby is a very lucky man. If the
alpha woman.
Absolutely. Looking after the cars and computers. You got it sus, girl. Good stuff.
Girl.
Now let's get into these questions here. And here we are. We've got a question here from Colin. Let's bring that up. So where are we? There we go. So Colin says, okay, I'd say Colin's from Canada, from the explanation there. I am miserable in my job at the age of 55, getting bullied in the workplace. I've tried all the law of attraction, but it doesn't seem to work. Any suggestions? I'm ready to quit my job.
Ooh, yeah, fancy getting bullied in the workplace at 55. Can you imagine? But, it does happen. And I have dealt with quite a lot of people that have felt that way. Mm-hmm. But my question to you, Colin, is I bet I'll put money on this and make a wager that this is not the first time that you've been bullied.
Oh, no question.
So this has come from a childhood wound. Mm-hmm. And this is where, if you can really go back and instigate where that began, because you've set up a pattern. So when you go to work, you know how animals, they smell fear on people,
Yes,
and
most definitely.
they know when they like a person, and they're very instinctive.
Agreed.
Well, this is the whole thing. We have got animal instincts ourselves. There's, like when someone walks in the room, sometimes you can go, whoa, I really like that person, or
Agreed.
I've just got a really bad feeling about that
Yep.
person. Have you ever had that? Like,
Oh,
where you,
many times. in my life, yeah.
and see, so this is the thing. So what you're doing is your energy is holding that. So you're actually attracting it. I mean, this is where we have to take responsibility for what we're attracting in our life. And with the law of attraction, I'm kind of wondering what you've been putting out there. Like, what are you visioning? Are you visioning that, it's almost like a blanket that is kind of covering what's on underneath? Whereas if you don't have the right foundation to create that vision, then it may not happen, because there's too many wounds that are sitting on top of it. It's like suffocating it,
My attitude is very different when it comes to bullying. As far as, I suppose not the norm, but this is my experience. I was bullied as a child. I might turn my microphone back on, shall I? Aren't I a bit naughty? I was having a drink before. There you go. So here's my thought on this, and it is probably a little bit different on things. So so I had some occasions at school, where I got bullied. Okay, and when I changed schools, I went into a new school, and there was bullying that happened straight away. Now, my attitude with that is the best defense is offense. So I came on the front foot. So when I was bullied, I had some people say some incredibly horrible things to me. So I literally just threw it back at them, and I threw some of the most horrible stuff back at them that hit them on a personal level, right? Okay. And I remember I was only a few days into my new school, and everybody went, whoa, we do not mess with him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, simple as that. In primary school,
must be twins.
Well, in primary school, it's more of a physical thing. You had someone bully you, then I would just punch them in the face, right? Now, it was a long time ago. You can't do that now.
I hear you.
Yeah,
and
but it solves the problem.
Yeah.
Because people go, oh, hang on, I can't bully him.
Well, see, here's the thing, right, Aaron? Right. Even the Bible, in the new system, like, right. When you're looking at the New Testament, it's always, turn the other cheek. And then, in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye.
Yeah. True.
So
sometimes you got to turn the other cheek by punching them in their head so the face turns, right?
Yes.
And no one wants to go there, but as I say, I'm talking primary school here. But people are bullies because of something that's happening in another part of their life, right?
Exactly.
They are bullies because of an insecurity in them, right? And when you're in primary school or first, a bit of high school, whatever, it's not your responsibility to be their social worker or psychiatrist or whatever. And it's sad that whatever's happening at home or other parts of their life, they don't feel they've got power or control of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to, especially at that sort of age, you've got to look after number one. Now, at 55, that's tough, because in a workplace, I'm not for 1 second saying that you should go and actually, I'll bring the question up again for Colin.
Yes.
I'm not for 1 second saying Colin should walk up and punch him on the face. Don't do that.
Yeah,
it's an HR problem. There's lots and lots of other issues to it.
But I hear you. And did you know that fits in with statistically police officers,
the most
ones
bullied people,
that they have been the most bullied? And it's like, friends from school, it's like, did that guy become a policeman? He was the most picked on person. But this is where I talk about the Dharma and rising up and turning your pain to power. And this is actually what does happen. But we still have to resolve it. So I really, you don't want to be a pushover. I don't believe being a pushover works.
Agreed.
But if you get reactive, it really tickles the charm of the bully. So the bully wants to keep on bullying because you're getting affected, and therefore it's working. So somehow or rather, you've got to kind of like be water off a duck's back and then get them when you're least expecting it. I've got a story. Can I say it?
Go,
Now, please
go for
do
it.
not try this at home, everyone. This is not good. Well, after a run of, getting sacked from 8 jobs in a row, which you probably heard about, I always look on the downside. I was fired from 8 jobs. Fancy that, world record, right? And not just, one after another, but on the upside, I got every job I went for.
Right.
Anyway, finally, I discovered that I was not in my Dharma. I was not in my life purpose. I was going where we thought was, a good thing to do at the time. So,
Sure.
like going Girl Friday, it used to be called Girl Friday
I remember,
Secretary and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And, then I accidentally fell into a sales job.
Yep.
And you don't know what you don't know.
So true.
And, on the first day I sold 12 pairs of shoes, but I was very disappointed with myself. But then when the bosses came in and they gathered us in the afternoon, I was only 17 years old. So they gathered us all up in the afternoon, and they're saying, and then when they got to me and they said, 12 shoes, because I'm like, I probably started saying, but I wasn't, I was just learning and this and that. And they said that was incredible, right? So they really brought me up. But because the bosses loved me, the girls hated me. And then it started, but it was big time. And one day I walked in and I just, like, how much is enough is enough. But if you put out that energy that you're really getting upset, you're really getting offended, it's going to kind of draw them to keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Okay.
But in this case, it was going on. And then when Terry goes quiet, that's when it's dangerous.
Okay.
Because, it's almost like you've come to a point of, it's over. I'm not doing this anymore. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, surrender. And in that moment, the energy stops. Something really weird happens. And then people start to treat you different. But this girl had one girl. Now, remember, I'm 5'3".
Okay.
People may not know this. She said, I was wearing these black grease pants, and she said something very derogative about it. Anyway, she came out the back, and then she gave me what for, and I went up to her. She was about 5'9". I grabbed her by her shirt and I lifted her, and her feet were off the ground. Do you know what? I didn't hurt her. I didn't punch her. I didn't do anything like that. But she left. She never came back.
Yeah,
and those girls. So, where's the fine line? But really, if I'm going to emphasize on a message in this, it is release the energy. Don't punch them out.
On that front, okay, so we've got a series of questions that have come in, and I really appreciate these. Great questions, Chaz. Now, she's asking this of you there, Terry. Are you saying that your wounds lead to being bullied? Bullied?
Yeah. Look, I was thinking about this morning when I quite often think about the show, but I don't do any homework until the last minute, of course, Terry style, right? And, there are things in our life that we don't like, and there are challenges that we meet that we don't particularly enjoy.
Sure.
And that's not necessarily the pain to power thing.
Yep.
It's the stuff that makes you go grrr. You know how I've talked about that? And so it's really the deep wounds, like the police officer. And, I could tell you umpteen stories about that, because I've actually consulted with police officers and actually released a lot of their tragedy, which has been there. In that case, it then rises up and becomes their power. The best thing, though, is you do have to overcome your wounds. When I say overcome them, you can't overcome. You can't change what's already happened, but you've got to make peace with it,
Yep.
And then just kind of, say to yourself, well, this is part of my life. And what is the spiritual growth? It even goes back to the first question we had. What is the spiritual growth here? What does this mean for me? And Aaron, somebody's been bullied in school.
Yeah, look, just bring up that next
sarcasm,
comment
toughness, coping mechanism.
It's so true. Again, being bullied in school, you develop techniques, whether they be, in this case, which has sarcasm and toughness to cope through, right? Kids get bullied. Kids are pretty cruel, let's face it, in so many circumstances. I think that, you've got to develop your way through that, right? Okay.
Yes.
And kids will find any difference and then they'll just aim at it, right? They will aim at it. So I was very lucky in as much as well, very unlucky. So without boring everyone to death, I was in a really, really, really bad car accident, young. So I had some physical difficulties that I had to overcome through primary school, right? And, kids see that and go, we're going to go, so for me, I had to go, okay, what am I going to do here?
More determination?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why I'm so incredibly proud of my rallying career, right? Because I'm not supposed to, my equilibrium was absolutely smashed, all kind of carry on. So I wasn't supposed to live, but apart from that, I wasn't supposed to be able to walk properly, all of that, right?
Jeepers. That's a huge story.
No. Well,
but it's good.
But my attitude's toughen up, princess, right? Okay, that happened to me. I went through that period, right? What did it teach me? It taught me to be determined. And I knew how much I wanted to race, and I knew that I was starting from behind the 8 ball. So I knew I had to work harder than anyone else.
Yes.
Right. So for me, it was a carrot. Okay. It would have been certainly easier not to have to do that. But again, it's your self-determination. And as for the gent with Colin, 55 years old, mate, we're of a similar ilk as far as age there. Yeah. You're a little bit older, just so you know. Anyway, but, mate, look,
you don't look a day over 21.
Yeah, a couple of times over
and then
some, right?
That compliment
with GST,
later.
Yeah, I will pay for that compliment. Do you take Visa? Anyway, but with Colin, honestly, Colin, you can't deal with it physically. I get that. You don't want to be a tattletale and go and talk to HR because that just doesn't work and becomes messy. So, in my opinion, you do things like you either effectively you just wash it off and you realise that the only reason they're doing it is because they're broken in some other way, right?
Yeah.
He might be going home to a wife that doesn't love him. Okay, he might have issues from childhood. The problem is him.
Yeah, it is. And
right?
I was just about to say that's gold, because when people kind of jump relationships, jump jobs, jump whatever, just remember one thing. And I don't say this, with any offense when I say it, but you'll take yourself with you. And the only way that you can avoid taking, when I say that, you take that part with you, you take that unresolved issue. So that's why it's really super important to really get to the root cause of it, dissolve, clear and release it, and rise up and show them what you got.
Well, comment that's on the screen right now, 100% agree with it. Some people are just that way because that's who they are. They can be addicted because their personality is just that way. There might not be some sort of trauma. They're just horrible human beings. And you know what?
But they've still got the horribleness from somewhere. And even if it goes back, of course they do. Do you think that, of course, horribleness and anger and, anxiety and all of those things are still behaviours and parts in a person that have not resolved their issues?
I don't know. I know someone in my life who has no excuse to be the incredible, horrible, vile human being that it has become, right? No excuse in the world. So I'm just thinking it must be deep in their DNA. To me,
could be.
Some people are just purely evil, right? And the great news is most of us aren't. And most of us get around life and have a good life and keep away from them.
Yeah.
And my attitude is now when I meet these evil people, because I do, right? Especially doing what I do, they try and infiltrate this world a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But I'm wise to it now. And I just say, you know what? Let the rubbish take itself out.
Yeah.
Got no interest in engaging with you. And you move on.
Yeah.
And
hundreds of my clients would agree with you. I have told this very briefly on one of our shows, but I'm going to say it again. Okay. Can you imagine, like what you just said, deeply, rooted in the DNA and all that stuff?
Yeah.
I get that. And one lady who came to see me, she hated her father with an absolute passion.
Gotcha.
But the problem was he was dead. So, she came to me and she said, she was even angry with the fact that he had left her his will, etc., etc. But she had so much anger over him. And there was no way that this human being had that much, not a speck of anything, but there is. There always is. And if you look at, the equivalent, there's always something. But one of the exercises, without boring everybody with the whole technique, is that I had to take her back to his childhood, past her own childhood, and allow her to see him as the broken child. Allow her to see him until she actually held him as a baby. Now, this is where it becomes very intuitive.
Sure.
But I'll say, and this is almost like every single time, right? I'll say, what does your father need? And I can't remember off the top of my head, but let's just say, I'm just going to make this up: love, security, and I don't know, value or importance. Let's just make those three words up. What I always find is that person who's suffering, even if they hate that person that's attached, that's what they're also needing as well. They need the same thing. And then, so what happens, it's really a perspective. So if you don't want to look at it from a spiritual, oh my gosh, Terry, what you talking about? You know, going back to where, you know, past generations, da-di-da-di-da. Well, look at it from this way, a perception shift. So if you suddenly saw that man, that grown man that was evil and wicked, and then you were suddenly holding him as a small baby, and then recognizing that he came from a background where he was mistreated and he couldn't give her what he didn't have.
I get that, but I also get this. I think generational trauma is a very real thing, but I think it is your responsibility to stop it. I think there's someone has to walk up with the stop sign saying it stops here, right? And something that I think that's so important is with your own children, with the children that you have in your life, with your uncle or an auntie or whatever. Okay, you have to make sure that you're giving them the most pure and beautiful experience that they can have, and you don't let that rubbish come from behind and infiltrate their lives, right? We've all had trauma. We all got here as everybody. Okay, but you've got to hit the wall somewhere. That's
absolutely. Well, I do agree with you 100%. In fact, I think what you said, the gold in what you said there, because we want to bring it back to the earth and reality and all that. We don't want to be too woo-woo, but you do have to kind of go, right, that's it. Stop. Like you painted a picture of this big red. I saw a big red stop sign, so I'm visual. Okay, so there's that stop, but there's something that happens in that person that becomes very definite. It's like if they were putting up with it for so long, that when in that moment when they say no more, that's it, time out. Right, and then that leads me to conclude with that by whatever you tolerate, you'll get more of.
And the moment you stop tolerating it and you put that stop sign up and you say, no, it's I will no longer allow this to be in my life. Some people will paint you as the bad guy. They really will. Okay? And you'll get trashed behind your back. I'm not going to carry on, because these people who do this sort of thing generally build networks. Just let it go.
Misery loves company.
Oh, it doesn't it? So, let it go, move on. Put that line, just draw it, okay? And the moment you step over it, just don't look back. Don't let that person hurt you anymore, right? So much easier to say than do.
But drawing the line in the sand, it's here. It's that mental decision of doing that, because, that's when something changes and, the energy shifts and people can tell. There's like that almost like a resignation.
Well, I've got a question here from Jess in Sydney. She's an online coach, and she believes that she's invested over $50,000 $50,000 in programs that are not working. I have strong vision and want to know why this is not happening. What are your thoughts there?
I can very much resonate with this. That's why I have a passion in the online space to help coaches. See, coaches, healers, and leaders, they're generally people that want to serve the world because they know their purpose and their passion. So they're not about, hustling sales and making all that work. But, I totally resonate with you with the 50K. But what you've got to really come into knowing with it, doesn't matter how much money you've spent, you've probably sort of experienced a few different coaches, and I say that you're never going to resonate with everything. You're never. It's impossible. So in some ways, I think people make the huge mistake, and I think it doesn't have to be just a coaching question here for coaches. If you try to learn everything, you'll learn nothing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's about the masterfulness of diving in and going, oh, I like that. And going, and holding on that really, and then specialize it.
Yeah.
And you repeat it, and forget all the rest of it. Don't try to learn everything. Don't try to listen to every word a person is saying, because the person might be cursing you. But the fact is that so hone in and look at the different things, like maybe you've already done that past tense. You can integrate it. Another whole topic though. But going forward, what you can do is learn that lesson of what is it? What is the biggest gold nugget? Because I have found myself that if I've paid someone very handsomely to teach me a strategy or something, I haven't resonated with everything they've taught me, and some of it's just gone, way over my head. So then when you grab onto that one thing, run with it. That's just take that, because that could change the whole trajectory. I have one more thing for that question. Okay. Now, this one's a big one, and I did hear this being said, and guess who said it? According to the media.
Let's hear it.
Elon Musk's ex-wife. Okay, so she was actually asked the question, how do you make money? Now, rubbing shoulders with Elon Musk must have, given her a little bit of insight.
I reckon she might know.
She might have a bit of insight, There's bound to be. So I thought I loved this answer she gave. Too many people are all about themselves. They're going, oh, I'm going to put this goal out there, and oh, look, I do it. Everybody does it. We've all fallen into this trap. I'm going to be this successful coach, and I'm going to serve. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make X amount of dollars, and this is what my life's going to look like. But I don't know what her name is, but what it needs to do is be reversed.
Okay.
You've got to ask yourself a different question. What can I do for the world that they need, that is going to be incredible, that I have a gift, that, I know that I can be iconic. So it's about turning it around.
Yep. No, I completely understand that. I think that, look, you know what? If you want to change your world, a nice way of changing your world is to change the world.
Yeah.
Bring a lot of people with you, things that you can do. And that sounds like a big statement, like, oh, geez, not everyone can change the world. Yeah, want to bet? Every single person. That guy who stood in front of those tanks in 1989 in Tiananmen Square, right? Okay, he changed the world, right? Okay, the guy who basically the rugby player who objected to apartheid in South Africa all those years ago, he changed the world. One person can do it. The power of one. It's very true. And you might not want to change the whole world. You might just want to change your world. But yeah, by I don't know, zeroing in on your life purpose, it brings wealth in other departments, and we're not talking about money.
Don't focus on the outcome. Be more about the journey and what it's going to do for other people. Because this is where I do want to say this from my own personal experience, and that is that all those dreams and wishes. I mean, I was very fortunate when I came into this business, because you don't know what you don't know. So I thought it was normal to be booked out solid with clients, because I was in bricks and mortar. So that was before the pandemic and all the rest of it, in the real days. So as a result, I thought that was normal. So I thought it was a walk in the park. So I got a very rude shock when I came online. I went in there with almost maybe a bit of arrogance that needed to be torn down a little bit. You know what I mean? And I was humbled. I was humbled in a very, very huge way. But, it is what you just said. It's the power of one thing.
Yep.
It's and also the other element we touched on earlier in the show, which is the power of letting go. That's your favorite saying, I know. But, letting go, because
Oh, my girls made me watch that bloody movie so many times.
So now you're singing it in your
every
head.
time I say "Let It Go," honestly, that plays in my head, which is not a good thing, but it's true.
But it's
because
a nice song.
because I am a person who spent, I'm going to say, at least 45 years of my life not letting go.
Yeah.
Right. And when I learned that I could do it, okay, it took 45 years of failing and trying to do it and learning ways. Right.
Yeah.
When I learned to do it, I was released. It was a magnificent change in my life, and it just means so much to me, right? And
Amazing.
I think, and I just want to share that with as many people as possible, not for myself, but the fact that if you can do it to yourself, life will be so much better.
So good.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm
good.
not as good as there's somebody I know who is far better at letting it go than anyone. Travis Carter, okay, Mr. Cartier. On my
Hello,
word,
Mr. Cartier.
Look, he could just like throw a match. The whole place can be burning. He'll just walk away. Like he's, like it's just
That's it. Let it
disaster
go.
behind. Doesn't care.
That's
Let
okay.
it go.
It's only
So if you're going to be inspired, someone
that might be a perspective. It might be a real superpower too, of a perspective.
Yeah.
That, sometimes when people, because I've found that to be true for me, where I was watching an argument happening in a messenger chat,
right,
and I was going through my own crisis, and I'm like, ain't nobody got time for that. You know what they were talking about was so ridiculous. So I totally get that. That can become a bit of a superpower by when you see the perspective of the bigger picture. But I just want to say, before I forget, to that lovely lady, whatever you are dreaming and goaling for, even if you think that you haven't got it yet, whatever you really want wants you as well. And so it is about the timeless space, and maybe be a little bit more specific about when that's going to come along, and then let it go.
Okay. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Spice Girls. Anyway, and on that bombshell, we'll get out of here. I'm just going to put up a last comment here from Taz, which I popped up before, which I think is so important. It sums up so many things for me. She says, I like to think I stopped generational trauma. My kids will hopefully never go through the things I went through. And that is important. That is boom.
That
exactly,
is
right?
Boom,
to
right
me,
there.
Again, you put the stop sign out, you say, this is no, it stops with me, right?
Yes.
And so,
you're the legacy.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you can make a change. You can absolutely do it. So many people go, oh, well, I lived through it, therefore, I'm going to part. No, you know what? Yeah, be the change you want.
Yeah.
It's like, there's so many different examples I could give, but, people who say that their father or their mother wasn't attached to them and didn't spend time with them or whatever. You know what? Okay, that's great. Well, it's terrible, but okay, you've experienced that. So here's a really good thing. Spend more time. Be more engaged with your children. Be more engaged with nature. Be more engaged. Just be more engaged, right?
Yes.
So you look at it and go, okay, I see what you did there. I don't much like it, so I'm going to turn that frown upside down. I'm going to put the spin on it, and away we go. All right. We are so over time, as we always do on this show, but I want to thank everybody for being part of it. Thank you for the wonderful messages that are coming through and the ones we will see through the week. Terry, any last-minute thoughts before I hit the button and we go back to regular programming?
Yeah, stay in the present, guys. Just tune in, because it's going to help with everything: your health, your wealth, your success, your freedom. Go in and just feel the hairs on your head. Sorry, Aaron. Just be with yourself and stay present.
Love it. All right. Please, if you can help us out by doing the liking and sharing and subscribing, all those things that the YouTubers do, we will really appreciate it. We are just loving the growth of Edge and loving being able to reach so many people and do our bit to make the world a better place, because, one person, one group of people, when we get together, we can change the world. That has been the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.